You have all heard much of the story of the development of Thompson from the days of the prospector to the present operation of the largest integrated nickel complex in the free world. We will show that development from another point of view, from this untouched wilderness through the painful stages of destruction and construction to our present level of horticultural achievement. The slides in this collection were taken by people living and working in the area, and we're grateful that many of these slides have been gathered to form a permanent pictorial record of Thompson's early days. Later horticultural slides are by members of our society. This view downstream on the Burntwood River is still relatively untouched.
This is the bend of the Burntwood area where we live. The central part, on the left of the river, above the bay, was just beginning to be cleared in 1958. Roads and rail lines are appearing, and patches of cleared land. On the right, a rail line goes north to Moke Lake, and the center road goes north to the Manassan Rapids on the river. A closer view shows the bulldozed areas and the first skeleton of streets.
This outcrop of nickel ore at Mystery Lake was the starting point of great activity. Interest shifted to a richer ore body at Thompson Lake, and prospector Walter Johnson used this cabin as his headquarters. We are fortunate to have this slide, because the lake level has been raised and the cabin is now underwater. Since Thompson Lake was some 30 miles from the closest point on the Hudson Bay Railway line, the first supplies were hauled in during the winter of 1956 by cat trains, following a chain of frozen lakes and winter roads. The base camp for prospecting and engineering was at Moke Lake, and the first families pioneered here, and several children attended school in a building similar to this fire hall. A camp was set up at the construction site at Thompson, and as you can see, the joys of spring 1957 were purely theoretical. Working conditions were equally hazardous. So far as we know, there is no actual record of anyone drowning in that mud, but it was certainly a possibility.
In 1958, the CN completed a spur line from Sipawesq to Thompson, and the crowd gathered here to celebrate the arrival of the first train. It was another 7 years before our primitive winter road became a primitive all-weather road. This warning was posted at the town limits. In spite of its classification as an all-weather road, there were plenty of scenes like this one.
Construction of the town site began with the bulldozing of areas of spruce. Much of the land had to be drained before it was possible to begin laying out roads and service lines. Permafrost was measured in some places to a depth of 6 feet. Every building site had to be tested because a house built on permafrost would cause the frost to melt. The subsoil would then settle and the building could sink quite dramatically. In the summer of 1958, the first basements were excavated.
Here you can see the general progress during 1958. Basements were excavated where possible, but many of these first houses were built on concrete slabs or piles to overcome the problems of the permafrost. The fall of '58 brought progress, but also plenty of mud. That winter, this area formed the business district of the community. It's a lot colder, but a lot cleaner. By the next spring, streets are becoming passable and cars are in evidence. Cars had to be shipped in or out by rail at this stage.
Back in your own backyard, here you see what the first homeowners contended with in their landscaping efforts. The front of that same house. Building contractors had no landscaping obligations other than to bulldoze the land into a semblance of a reasonable grade. If the weather was dry, a machine like this could work, but don't expect attention to small details. From here on, you're on your own.
The summer of '59 shows the beginning of the first school building in the lower left of the picture. Also, the first postage stamp lawns begin to appear in front of homes. Autumn frames the emerging town site. Many more houses have been added by summer 1960. And though most grounds look pretty bleak, there was one outstanding example.
Mrs. Edith Chaddock produced this garden in 1960 within 2 years of the first clearing of the town site. She and her husband Bill provided evidence that such gardening in this climate was possible. They gave inspiration and hope to many who feared that mud and frost would defeat all efforts. Crocuses herald spring. The Chaddocks were successful in transplanting a number of wild species into their garden. These lady slippers were successful transplants. This pink lady slipper was photographed in the woods. They were not able to get this to grow in the garden. As the garden developed, they produced this dahlia in 1961. A view of the garden in 1962. In the rear, beyond the driveway, was an extensive rock garden. Red emperor tulips and daffodils in 1962. A dramatic lily in 1963. And a beautiful peace rose. Many fine vegetables were grown as well, including these carrots in '67. Brilliant marigolds in '69. And a close-up of the brilliance. By 1972, the lilacs were blooming well. Clematis in '72. A general view of the side garden. By '72, the perennials and shrubs are quite substantial.
In 1963, a lawn and garden competition was organized, and these next few slides show the winners. These may seem rather simple results to more experienced gardeners, but they represent a tremendous achievement in 5 years. When you consider our heavy wet clay soil and the brief growing period, everything grown was an experiment in survival. These were records in 1963, and records are made to be broken. Some fine vegetables were also proven possible in '63, as these 3 gardens show.
We have an interesting series here showing the development of one property from the fall of '63. At least there's no mud at this point. And the neighbor shows that gardening can be done. The yard was cleaned and rototilled in '64 and allowed to settle. Then in '65 the front lawn was leveled and seeded in August, with advice from the backseat gardener. He counted every seed he planted. The summer of '66 brings the beautiful result. A close-up of a flower bed. The side lawn with the vegetable garden beginning in the rear. A fine crop of boys and tomatoes. And a close-up of the tomatoes. The vegetable garden in 1967 shows many of the fine things that can be grown here. Marigolds go well with cabbages. A Festiva Maxima peony from the same garden. And the largest mountain ash in Thompson.
Back to the air in 1964. Inco Mine in the background adds to the autumn haze. The high school in the foreground has since been more than doubled in size. Another autumn view. Inco has homes for its senior management around the oval on the left. A change of season brings a dramatic change of color. Winter of 1966 shows many more areas developed. The gravel hill in the background provided a ski hill for a number of years. The Inco complex should have a little publicity in this program, since it is the reason we are all in Thompson. This will be the only commercial break in this program. This aerial view in 1971 shows the metropolis that now exists.
The greenhouse is an obvious help in producing this display in our short season. Around this home, trees are now becoming large enough to provide pleasant shade. This is still rare on most properties. A lovely bed along the edge of a driveway. An interesting contrast of geometric concrete with the color and form of plants. This brilliant display gives a warm welcome to all approaching this home. A beautiful prize-winning lawn. An invitation to wander down for a closer look at all of this lovely greenery. The overall view of a bountiful vegetable garden. And a close-up of some of the bounty. Another lush green winter. An eye-catching corner display. And a closer look at some of its brilliant gold. A really lovely bouquet of delicate contrasts. Even though we almost have to treat roses as annuals in Thompson, their brilliance makes it worthwhile. Dahlias do well and provide spectacular contrasts of shape and color. In general, our trailer court has been something of an eyesore, but those who have tried to improve their property have had considerable success. Shrubbery and lawn are framed here by an unusual and attractive fence.
We move from the brilliance of summer to our longest season and show you some of the other attractions and recreations of Thompson. This gravel hill, which provided the first ski run, has since been demolished. But a new and much more elaborate skiing area is now developed at Mystery Mountain, several miles north of Thompson. Spring breakup on the Burntwood River reflects a warming sun and stirs the excitement of the many boating and fishing enthusiasts. North of the river, a developing golf course shows its interesting pattern. Paint Lake, 20 miles south of town, now has a marina, public beaches, campground, a cottage area on the mainland, and cottages on several of its many islands. This beach at Paint Lake basks in the afternoon sun and is very popular on long, hot summer evenings. The Grassy River flows through Paint Lake, and many an avid fisherman searches it for pickerel. Just above that spot on the Grassy is Peachou Falls. This is one of the most photogenic spots in the whole area in any season. The falls drop into a narrow, twisting gorge, and the spray is always violent. Nature has violence of another sort, and all too often it erupts through human carelessness. This fire was within the town limits in 1960.
A gentler flame, the beauty of autumn at Taylor Falls. Autumn colors on the Burntwood River. The single-lane bridge served from 1957 until it was replaced by a modern bridge in 1971. Back to Peachou Falls in October. A photographer's delight. The lengthening shadows give a change of mood. Winter returns to this early view of the Manison Rapids before they were bridged. winter gives Pichu Falls its most spectacular appearance. The mist gradually coats all the trees in the area with layers of frost, and the shapes which emerge are eerily dramatic.